guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Louisa and I make videos and little films about the marriage between mental health and spiritual growth. So it's usually got a little bit of each in my presentations. Although at the moment I'm working on a series called Busting Programs, and this will apply to, I think, most people. So whether you're experiencing mental health difficulties or not, I invite you to listen, and I also invite you to consider how this particular program I'm going to talk about today could impact your mental well-being for the positive. It's a little bit impromptu because I'm not super prepared with notes or anything, but I just really felt excited by today's topic and wanted to see what came out of me spontaneously. I think that's sometimes the best way to teach, is just to get excited and share from the heart. So that's what I'm going to do. So the program I want to bust today and think about is the program of what would we call it? The It's Not Okay to Be Feminine program, or the suppression of the divine feminine. The masculine is better than feminine. These ideas have been around in our patriarchal society for a very, very long time, and there's a lot of programming that is needed to be dismantled if we are to have a balanced society and also a balance within. So every single person has got a masculine and a feminine side, and this is not about gender. I'm sure you will hear that whenever you look at anything that's halfway meaningful on the internet, or you read a subject on in books about femininity and masculinity, particularly sacred masculine and sacred feminine, or divine masculine, divine feminine, you'll find that the teaching will explain very clearly that both are contained within. We have a right and left hemisphere of the brain, and these are, I suppose, physical representations of that which is within. So the right hand side being the feminine, the intuitive, the creative, the spontaneous, perhaps the little bit of a scary side because of our programming in our society, whereas the left hand side is our logic, analytical, narrative making, rational side. So we both have the masculine and the feminine within, and we need both to be whole and happy. But what's happened over the course of the programming that we're going to bust is our society's been heavily weighted towards the masculine, and masculine has kind of been put on a pedestal as the ideal, whereas the feminine qualities have been suppressed. So without going too much into the history of that, although the burning of the witches springs to mind, I have had tears running down my face with memory, ancestral memory about that time when women were vilified, demonized and murdered because of their expression of the feminine power. And actually it might be worth mentioning when those memories were activated for me was quite recently, because what we're seeing is a resurgence of the feminine powers coming back on the planet. And one way this is manifesting is through the modern craze or fad for essential oils and plant medicines. Now, traditionally, those so-called witches, and that word has a very negative connotation, so I don't like to use it, the medicine woman, let's say, they were the practitioners who understood herb law and the plants and how to use them. Of course, men could as well, and many shamans in society were men, but the ones that were demonized during this period that we know as the witch hunts, they were the women, and they were practicing the herb law and understanding the power of the medicines. So it kind of gave me chills when I was invited to a learning workshop for women. It was all women there to learn about essential oils. And essential oils are essentially plant medicines. They're just in a modern form, nicely bottled with little labels that tell you exactly what they do. And sometimes known as aromatherapy, a very innocuous sounding name. So it's been rebranded, but essentially we're looking at women reclaiming the herb lore and the knowledge, the ancient knowledge, and reclaiming their power to support and heal their own bodies as well as the bodies of their families. Because of course that's one of the archetypal roles of the female, the feminine, is to be the nurturer, the mother, the caregiver. So rather than handing that power over to, let's say, a doctor, which is what's happened in the last 100 or so years, where natural medicines, the common knowledge of natural medicines has fallen away. We still have, plenty of professional people who are keeping the art alive, but the common knowledge has fallen away to some extent. Every family has their little wives' tale, and that phrase in itself is a way of diminishing this knowledge, this ancient knowledge. But these wives' tales are passed down through the family. That I don't know. The one that I remember was that rubbing gold on my sty, on my eye, would actually get rid of the sty. And do you know it works? So this ancient knowledge is returning. It's really exciting to see, and I went through a period of being just so excited to have my essential oils and to start using them on my own health. And I've had amazing results actually, working with some quite acute problems. My cat had a respiratory infection and water on the lungs, pleurisy, and my husband and I were like, oh my gosh, we take her to the vet. But I was like, no, wait, I'll consult my medicine chest. And sure enough, oregano oil, super powerful for viral infections. I gave my cat, did a little bit of research, gave her a very diluted amount for about 5 days and completely cleared it up. So that's only one example. There's many. I think I use my oils every single day now for some kind of healing. And it's also healing on the mood and healing on a spiritual level. So they're amazing. Anyway, but this isn't a plug for essential oils. I just use that story to illustrate the return of the ancient power, the ancient knowledge, and the divine feminine aspect to our planet that's coming back online. So it's very exciting. Now, the divine feminine is not just about accessing our ancient wisdom. It's also about accessing innate qualities within that we would call feminine, and that again, both men and women have. And it's about bringing them into balance. Now, the masculine traits, as I mentioned before, are the very logical, rational, task-orientated kind of mentality that has come to dominate our societies. And, we see it in the way that emotions, for example, tend to be suppressed in the workplace, and people who can control their emotions are seen as the strong ones. We have a society that honours external achievement, so this goal setting, planning and achieving kind of processes. We have a society which is heavily invested in proving things through systematic knowledge gathering, so empirical science, and evidence-based science, which is fine on the one hand, and it's really interesting to study our world for patterns and see how they work and create theories. However, that kind of science, if it's taken too far and it negates the feminine, means that we are not bringing online the other aspects of our minds and hearts, which is our intuition, our higher knowings, our intuitive knowings, and our heart. So our feelings, how we feel about things. Now, intuition and feeling are intricately linked, because I'll have a feeling about something that is my intuition speaking to me, a feeling about this being right for me or that being right for me, or this person being someone that I shouldn't be working with. I just get a bad feeling about them, or you walk into a room and something feels off. How many times have we had a lot of intuitive feeling about something, and then ignored it, persevered, and then discovered that actually we should have paid attention. And I think for me now, that's getting so obvious. Like, I'm at such a state of super awareness about my experience. That's my thoughts, my feelings, what's happening in my environment. All of that is expanding in awareness constantly as I go through this process of ascension and spiritual upgrade. So now I'm at the point where those intuitions are like being hit on the head with a baseball bat. Whereas once upon a time it was extremely subtle, and this is the mental masculine conditioning that we've all gone through. The subtlety comes about because we were not told that our feelings were very important, or certainly not that they were like genuine signals to act on. It's kind of the whole masculine imbalance way of seeing things is like to discard the feelings and look only at the facts. And we definitely need both, because of course if it swings too far in the other way, if we're too feminine in our thinking, we're going to let our emotions and intuition rule everything to the point of almost chaos. Things will be very unconnected, and we'll have trouble completing tasks and achieving goals, and that kind of thing. So we do need both, but the feminine intuitive feeling parts have been suppressed to the point where many of us don't trust that intuition, that little feeling that tells us something's wrong. So it's super important to be cultivating that within, and I mean a lot of the work, a lot of the things I talk about is about working with the feelings and learning to trust the feelings. The other aspect is learning to trust your imagination, your inner sight, because that process is a very intuitive one. So, for example, with a journey that you might take, an inner visualization journey, and the shamans would call it a shamanic journey that you can go on yourself. You don't need any drugs, you don't need any fancy anything. You can just do this yourself, and it's a little similar to having a dream at nighttime, a lucid dream where you know you're dreaming. These journeys require a large amount of trust in your intuition, because, and if in fact that the better quality they are, total trust is actually required. But in the beginning it's quite difficult to do. You can have one of these journeys and you can be presented with a lot of imagery in your mind, and there's the masculine part of you going, is that true? You know, did I create that from my imagination? Is that just something I was thinking about the day before? It's very skeptical, the masculine mind, which again is useful in certain situations, but not when you're journeying. When you're journeying, when you're going deep within, to receive information that is from beyond your little ego self, and that's the beauty of this information. It is coming from beyond. Partly that's why we don't trust it, but as you learn to do this kind of work, you do fully trust it. You come to fully trust your intuition, your knowing, and that is the divine feminine resurrecting itself within you. I mean, I think the dream is a helpful analogy, because when we have a dream and we come out of it, we wake up the next morning, we trust that dream was our dream for a start. Now, there is a tangent subject that I could go into, which is that a lot of us are actually learning in our dreams. We're being guided by other beings, higher selves, our light family. So are they fully our dreams or not? Okay, there is a question mark over that. But let's say for most of us, when we dream, our common dreams, they are information coming from the deepest part of ourselves to ourselves. And so we trust them. They hold messages for us about how we're really feeling about things in the world. They hold messages about what we've been suppressing during the day. If they are very vivid, disturbing dreams, they're going to tell us a lot about things that we need to attend to, fears we might be having. For example, you have dreams about your house falling down. It could signify something like that your personality is falling apart, that your world is falling apart, that your identity rather. So these dreams are very important to pay attention to. Now, when you go into a shamanic dream or journey, it's exactly the same thing. You can completely trust that information because it's coming from the depth of your soul. It's coming up to be acknowledged by you. And in fact, the more you trust it, the clearer the information will get. Whereas if the mind or the masculine aspect gets in the way and wants proof and wants to question everything and doubts a lot, you're going to find your journey quite sort of staggered and incoherent, and you might censor yourself. It'll just be a limited experience of what you could experience. Look, I wasn't planning on talking about journeying at all, so it's interesting that it's come up as a part of this presentation on the feminine. I do recommend it as a tool to start accessing your divine feminine, is to start doing a shamanic journeying. And I will put a post to Sandra Ingerman's work that I would highly recommend as a guide to teach you how to journey. This is not something that, when we think of shamans, we think of little old men and women in tribal villages with magical powers. And yes, they are amazing. The ones that, are master shamans are incredible. But we can all cultivate a shamanic practice. I heard a beautiful definition of shamanism recently, which was simply being fully present with what is going on right now. Or deeply present with what is going on right now. And isn't that interesting? It isn't magic. It's actually cultivating an expanded presence of mind. And the more expanded you get, the more magical it gets, because you begin to be able to see into timelines what's going to occur. You begin to intuit what is happening around you. Is there danger? Or what is needed in a certain situation. And a lot of times this information is not coming from the logical, rational part. It's not something that you can sit down and research and devise, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's something that you get told by your intuition. And at that level, you trust that completely. And that is a beautiful thing. When you're that connected to your inner self, to your own intuition, your own divine feminine aspect, like magic really does start to happen for even the most ordinary of people. So, don't think that shamanic journeying is out of range for you. But you have to start somewhere if you've never done it before. So I'm going to recommend Sandra Ingerman because she does teach you through the baby steps, and I've read her book on shamanic journeying, and I've also done a 7-week course with her, which was very helpful, even though I'd been doing it myself, bumbling along. You can do that too. You can just bumble along and figure this out for yourself. But I always think it's helpful to have a guide because, there's some useful tips and information that will make the journeying process a lot easier for you, so you can trust it and get more out of it more quickly. So that's shamanic journeying, and that gateway into the intuitive parts of ourselves, I would say, is a feminine aspect, because it can also be quite chaotic, and we're working, that's one of the aspects of the feminine. The masculine is order and the feminine is chaos. And if you actually extrapolate that to the principles in Tantra yoga, you have what the Hindus would call Shiva, being the masculine aspect. And Shiva is pure presence and awareness at the very end of the spectrum. Shiva is the observer. It's like the eyes of God, the mind of God, just observing the universe, not doing anything, just observing, just being present and witnessing. Whereas the feminine, the divine feminine aspect is called Shakti. And Shakti is everything else other than that observer. So Shakti is life. Shakti is the craziness, the messiness, the movement. Shakti is beauty as much as Shakti is ugliness. And unlike Shiva, the Shiva presence, the divine masculine, so it's presence at the one end, and then as you sort of move down the scale into the shared reality that we experience, the masculine aspect takes the form of penetration, of goal setting, of wanting something and going for it, of doing it in a very systematic, analytical way. That's the powerful Shiva presence, which we all need as part of our makeup. And whereas the Shakti aspect is that which is flowing and forever changing and has no goal. It just is. Shakti is happy to be. Shiva wants to do. So yeah, these two polarities exist within us, and at the moment, as I said, on our planet, most of us have been trained to be very Shiva minded, very masculine minded, go out, get it, achieve. And there's this, I hear it, I've read memoirs of people who've laid their lives bare and admitted this, for example, where memoirs of very successful people who've achieved so much in their life, and they get to that deathbed and there's all these regrets because they didn't really live their lives. They weren't immersed in their lives. They weren't feeling every moment. They weren't fully present. So too much goal setting and ambition is going to mean you kind of miss the whole point. And the point is to experience it, to be the stillness, the movement, the stillness in the movement. So this is where Shiva and Shakti are not two separate things. They're actually, it's like the snake eating its tail, the Ouroboros. There's all these paradoxes at the highest spiritual levels, which are exasperating and amusing at the same time. But because we have the stillness from Shiva, and then we have the movement from Shakti, and together that is life, and it's never ending. It's an always unfolding process. And when we welcome in the Shakti presence, the feminine presence, we're going to find that all of that goal setting will lose its grip, in the sense that you'll still have goals and you'll still want to do stuff, but the outcomes are not as important as the journey, and you've got to start to embody that through presence, through actually experiencing your life, through feeling your way through life. And that's the feminine aspect, to feel. Now, another aspect of the feminine, when we're thinking about feeling, is being in the body, really enjoying the senses. It's enjoying food and eating slowly and savoring flavor and being appreciative of food. It's enjoying your body. A lot of the suppression of the feminine has caused enormous problems with body dysmorphia, so thinking that your body looks really ugly, self-image problems, eating disorders, and that's on the pathological end, if you like. That's when things have got really bad. But I don't know anyone that doesn't have some kind of body image issue that's come out of all this programming that we've been exposed to. And women are particularly affected by it, because we've sort of been taught that it's very important how we look as opposed to what we do. So historically, we've kind of taken that on as that's our job, to look good, and if we don't look like the women in the magazines, then that can be very depressing and demoralizing and cause us to reject our bodies. And when we reject our bodies, we also reject our pleasure that we can have from being in the body. We reject our sensuality. We just reject a whole aspect to life, sort of psychic surgery, cutting off these experiences. Your body is, in a way, your pathway back into the feminine. Now, I recently did, and this is why I'm so inspired and excited to share this topic with you today, I recently did a weekend immersion in Shiva Shakti dance, which I highly recommend. And if you live in Australia, I'm going to post the links below. But you know, it's probably something that you could find in other countries as well under different names. Erotic dance, that kind of thing. Tantric dance. It's not designed. You see, there's misperceptions about erotic dance that mean that people think immediately that it's like the strip teasers in nightclubs, which are really offered as an entertainment to a paying customer, and that is so not what Shiva Shakti is about. Shiva Shakti is about reconnecting women to their natural sensuality and sexuality, because Shakti actually is sexuality. The power of the divine feminine is the expression of sexuality in the world. And it's so powerful, and it's no wonder in a way that, you know, civilization has tried to suppress it in order to control humanity. You know, it makes perfect sense to shut down the sexual energy, and sexual energy doesn't have to be about sex. Sex is one aspect of it. It's kind of the, you know, the extreme, the orgasm, the connection to source that you get through an orgasm. That's why orgasms are so amazing, because you're actually connecting to source, literally. It's the body's way of cultivating that connection. So tantric sex is designed to cultivate that consciously. Most of us, unfortunately, have experiences where we're not trained in that at all, and we fumble along and we have sex and we have the orgasm and we get our connection to source, but it's very sort of unconscious and in a lot of ways unfulfilling and unsustainable. So practicing the art of reconnecting to your sexuality in its myriad forms. You know, it might be savoring something that you're eating. It might be touch, the touch of yourself, or touching your partner in a sexual, sensual way. It is absolutely dancing. Dancing is a wonderful portal into the sexual energy. And this was a lot what the weekend was about, the Shiva Shakti dancing. I'm actually going to do a dance for you at the end of the video. I won't do it right now because the light is fading, and yeah, I want to set my camera up outside somewhere nice. So I'll do it for you outside just to show you this power, and hope that it translates through the camera. Because I noticed when I did my Shiva Shakti course, well, there was a whole lot of stuff that came up regards this programming, and I realized that, and it was sad actually. I cried when I realized this. I cried tears, and I cried tears not just for myself. I cried tears for the lineage of women from which I've come. And those tears were about the fact that I've never felt 100% truly safe with my sexuality. So safe to be sexual. It's not really a surprise, is it, when we look around us and we see what society has told us sexuality is. There's a lot of violence in sexuality as it's portrayed in the media. We hear a lot of fearful stories. Often our parents don't really give us any education about the emotional and spiritual aspects of sex. Yeah, we might get the physical the physical aspects, but that's about it. So we're sorely lacking in understanding, and I felt really sad that I'd spent most of my life so disconnected from my own sexuality and not even really realizing it. So my first aha was that it's safe to be sexual, and my second aha was it's pleasurable to be sexual. And I mean, you know, if anyone enjoys sex, then of course they'll know what I mean, but it's not, that pleasure is not just confined to the sexual act. That pleasure is just about being in your own body, experiencing your own sexuality. And, you know, that can be expressed in many, many ways, through dance, or through the way you dress, or just enjoying your body. So, you know, having a lovely bath. And then, of course, there's the expression with partner that you can do. So I am not an expert on that at all, but I just thought I would share with you a little bit of my own personal revelations lately and how much fun I've had reconnecting to my sexuality. If you are watching this at the moment and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so far away from that, I've had so many terrible sexual experiences, or I really hate my body, or I don't feel feminine at all, then first of all, you are absolutely not alone. You're a product of this programming, and that's why I'm making these videos, to try and bust these programs. Take heart and know that there's nothing wrong with you. It's just the layers that have been covered over your essential, beautiful, sexual, feminine nature that have hidden what is there. So it is possible to take those layers off. And yeah, it's a little bit of work, but this is a start. Watching a video like this, having a think about it. I do recommend at the very least that you have a go at doing some dancing, put some beautiful music on and see how that feels. It does go for men as well. Activating the Shakti presence, the feminine presence through dance is just as equally powerful for a man. Because dance is the ever movement. It's got to be intuitive dance. I'm not talking about like a choreographed thing. That's more the Shiva element, the masculine, because it's prescriptive and structured. We want to get rid of the structure to really embody the feminine and just feel into each moment, feel what every moment requires of us. And can you imagine then what that practice does for the rest of your life? How you can start to bring that feminine intuitive knowing and embodiment into every area of your life. You can go with the flow when things don't go well for you. You trust your intuition when you hear it speaking to you. You allow things to happen with more fluidity and grace. You flow, you simply flow. That's what the Shakti power is. It's this beautiful flowing. And you don't get hung up on outcomes. You just enjoy what's right in front of you right now. Because if you're present, enjoying what is in front of you, the feel of something, the feel of this beautiful feather, which I have right here, and just on my skin, how beautiful that feels. That is sensual, that is sexual, that is feminine, that is Shakti. And we also have, what the stone feels like, this beautiful stone, my lovely snake stone. The snake, symbol of transmutation, shedding the skin, becoming the next version of yourself. So, hopefully that was helpful. Gosh, a topic like this, it's so big. People have written entire books on it, PhD theses. What to say? There's a lot to say, but that's probably enough. It is a bit of a long video already, and I want to add a little bit of the dance element, so I hope you enjoy. And yeah, look, I get a little masculine in my thinking with these videos, and I'm like, well, I've got to prepare all this stuff, and I've got to write all these notes, and it's got to be really succinct information, and I can't miss any points. But I'm trying more and more to just give you what's in my heart, to just jump in and speak. And that is the feminine aspect again. It's just that trusting. Yeah. Look, there's a lot more to feminine too that I probably haven't covered. So collaboration springs to mind as well, and all sorts of things. But anyway, look, let's just leave it there. I'm sure that whatever's unsaid will come up again in another video when it's meant to be said. So on that note, take care, and thank you for watching, and namaste.